Hi, I'm Gail Dunnrowicz. I grew up in Massachusetts and came to Manchester Community College in 1969 after working at Holyoke Community College. I attended Boston University, Assumption College, and UMass, and have degrees from all three.
Okay, so what was the reason that you chose to come to MCC?
I chose to come to MCC from Holyoke because John Volandis, who was the director of admissions from the University of Connecticut, said Manchester Community College is the only community college in the state to work for. And he was right.
Oh, I remember that name from UConn, John Volandis.
Yeah. And my specialty as a counselor was I did the articulation between the 2-year colleges and the 4-year colleges. And when Jack Annan and Dr. Lowe and Harry Godey interviewed me, they decided to hire me.
So that was my next question. Was just those 3 people that was the hiring process you met with?
Yes, just those 3, and I met with.
Meeting with each, or was it a group?
I met with Dean Godey and Jack Annan over in the in the present Fuss and O'Neill building, and then they took me up after they interviewed me and had a little conference. They took me up to Keeney Street to meet with Dr. Lowe.
And what was your first impression? First day on the job, what was your first impression of being at the college?
I liked the college. Right. It was a little different from Holyoke. Holyoke had just gone through a fire, and we were in the old part of the old high school. Right. But I thought that Manchester was really heads and shoulders above where I'd come from.
And what was the campus like at that point?
The campus, what campus?
Yeah.
By the way, coming over here, I remembered our classrooms were mostly at night in the Manchester High School. And when a bomb scare was called in, I evacuated the building. And the school officials in the town of Manchester got very excited that a counselor would do something like this. And Dr. Lowe was wonderful. He said, it was the right thing. If anyone's in danger, let's empty the buildings.
Right. So then it was just the high school at night. Was Hartford Road being used for classrooms at that time?
Hartford Road was used for classrooms. Okay. And the faculty, what goes around comes around. Some of the faculty had offices over on Main Street. I'm not sure they were in the Regals building that the college is going to have an art museum in, but they were in that area right there.
That's the section? Okay.
And they also had faculty offices up on Center Street. In one of the old houses that's now a real estate office.
Okay. How about early memories of staff meetings, administration meetings, faculty meetings that you attended?
Oh, staff meetings were wonderful. We didn't have a union then. Mm-hmm. We all got together downstairs in the basement in this little room in Hartford Road. And they were very quick. The president ran them, usually. And to the point, and we were in and out, and then we'd all get together afterward. And the group was very close. It was a very close-knit group.
Yeah. And you say you all got together afterwards.
We all went out to dinner. We had a few drinks. We all partied together.
Okay. Any early features of the college that really stand out?
I can remember when we were going to be put on this camp, we were going to move to this campus, and coming over for the groundbreaking and thinking, oh my God, we're going to be out in the middle of nowhere. And I mean, in reality, it was only down the street.
Right.
And, we were told these were temporary buildings. And when I retired in the late 90s, we were still in the temporary buildings and still using them.
So that must have been 1970 when?
Yes, around 70, I would say.
Okay. How about your image of the college in general? Let's say back then in terms of students, faculty, staff, and what you know of it today? Any comparisons?
I think you still have... Manchester still has an outstanding group of faculty members. I hear all kinds of good things. I'm encouraged when I see students that came to the college whose children are now coming to the college. And see some of the children that were in our child development center. Your son was one of them, and he's a man now.
Right.
I mean, he's not, I was going to say, he's, really young, but he's not, he's grown,
Right.
matured.
How about significant MCC moments, events, programs?
I think
Share with us.
some of the moments and programs, we brought the highest woman in the Navy in to speak at a commencement. Went through many commencements. It was a joy to see our students graduating, and many of them being so successful. I mean, last week I was out having breakfast, and Christine Law stopped me and told me how successful she'd been. And she went to MCC, and she now has 2 additional college degrees beyond her MCC degree, and she works in the health service area.
Okay. How about colleagues or students? Anybody that you want to talk about maybe who left a lasting impression on you?
Well, Jack Annan, of course. Jack was my immediate supervisor when I started here. Harry Godey.
He was Dean of Students.
Harry was Dean of Students, but Harry didn't have a whole lot. Jack supervised the counselors and was in with the counselors. And but Harry was always there if we needed something, but we tended to go to Jack.
Right. How about some funny experiences that you...
One of the funniest experiences was to have a faculty member come running in when we were down on Hartford Road and say that he thought there was a student out in the parking lot with a gun who was going to shoot the male faculty members. So with the 2 women counselors, Beverly Hounsel and I, please go down and check the parking lot to be sure it was free. There was no one down there.
Right.
But, and that was David Goodman. I mean, David wouldn't have minded me saying it.
Okay.
I mean, he was, And I mean, we had a student who collected turtles, and
Right.
he would bring his turtles in, and,
How about registration? I remember sometimes registration in the auditorium on what was then the new campus, the East Campus. You remember anything about registration and how different it was then with the cards?
The registrations, the old registrations were with the cards. Even the registrations down on Hartford Road were down in the cafeteria. And we had runners that after you put the numbers in on the students' worksheets, they'd pull the cards out of the pigeonholes and then attach all the cards. Right. And then we'd hope that, no one dumped the tray or...
So each student who registered for class had a card that essentially
for
guaranteed them
class,
that
seat in the class.
And we were pulling these cards out.
We were pulling cards out like little chimpanzees and running back and forth. And when you finished with registration, you really felt like you'd worked it.
Yeah.
And we had a policy in student services. When it was time to register the students, all vacations were denied.
Right.
Everyone worked it.
I think I remember that.
I'm sure now all you do is press a few buttons and
the
everything.
computer registration is so much different, right?
Exactly.
How about the counseling center itself and how it was structured and what you remember about the different roles in counseling?
When I first started in counseling, Ron Clinton and I started at the same time. Beverly Hounsel had just gotten married, and I think it was her second year in there. Chuck Regan was there, and Jack was our supervisor. Right. And as you came in the door, the counseling group was off to the left. We had 2 secretaries that sat out in the main area. Right. And I did the transfer articulation. The other counselors did pretty much everything, placement, a little bit of everything. And then as we grew, when we came over to this campus, we had a placement person. Right. And
testing?
No, we didn't have any testing. Okay. Yeah, every registrar's office took care of the testing. That was under Lloyd Holt.
Oh, okay, great.
And Lloyd took care of all of that.
Okay.
And Lloyd was a great person to work with. Mm-hmm. He was very calm. No matter what happened, he would say, take a deep breath. The world is not going to end.
He had a dry sense of humor, if I remember.
Yes, a typical Maine sense of humor. Right. And we used to kid him about being from Maine. Right. Just like they'd kid me from being from Massachusetts in my Boston accent.
Yes. Anything else that you would like to add far as things that you remember at the college? Either things that we did differently then, or people you want to mention?
Oh, I think Fred Lowe, our first president, was an outstanding person. I want to tell you, I was scared to death of him.
Yeah.
But you know, that was I was new. I was from out of state.
Yeah.
But he was always very nice, and you learned to always ask Fred questions in the afternoon after he had had his lunch. He was very mellow.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. You glossed over all the union work that you were engaged with. Can you comment about that?
Oh, sure. The union work during the gas crisis and before, I ended up being the driver, and I drove Sid and Bill Dowd down to the union meetings. I was also a union representative.
Right.
I was not really keen on joining the union, but I soon found out that I had to pay the same amount of dues as a union member, and I decided, since we were student services, we needed to have a voice. So I wasn't too shy about it, and Sid used to kid me, but I never wanted to let Sid drive. His eyesight was never the best, and he and Bill would get arguing, and I was always unsure, so the only female drove the men to the meetings.
Car rides with those
Oh,
two
they
arguing
were.
about union issues.
They were, and about getting everyone organized in all the colleges.
Right.
And when I transferred down to Middletown, they were wonderful, but they were completely different from working at Manchester.
Yeah.
And
one of the things that people have mentioned to us in these interviews is the kind of spirit and togetherness that faculty and staff had. Did you feel the same way?
oh, the faculty and staff spirit at Manchester has always been tremendous.
Yeah.
And I understand that continues even more so today.
Yeah.
I understand under the present president, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about affirmative action, since weren't you involved?
Oh,
Action,
yes,
yeah.
I was the affirmative action officer, and I took part in that famous case where Isaac Amoa's
Oh, yeah.
son-in-law
Yes.
was being sued.
You were involved in that. Okay.
I was involved in that. I had a direct line to the Attorney General's office, to the attorney that was assigned to the case, who ended up working for the State College University system.
Right.
And the state did settle that sexual harassment suit with no fault being assigned on either thing. And I think they settled it for a large amount of money. I know that the woman that filed the suit got her tuition paid, I think, for the rest of her life, practically.
Yeah. All right. Forgot about
More of
affirmative
that
action.
wound up doing it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I forgot about
And-
the affirmative action piece.
And the affirmative action, it was very interesting. When I came to retire, they told me that in my personnel file there was nothing that said that I had ever undergone training so as not to discriminate. And I said, what? I put the letters in all the faculty files that they went through it, and I said some faculty members were very indignant. They didn't want to go through this sexual harassment training because, after all, we were dealing with adults, and adults could make their own decisions.
Right.
And it was very challenging to convince them that it didn't matter if you were charged with something. It had a negative impact, even if you were very innocent.
Right.
Yeah, my other question had to do with Women's Center. Weren't you involved with that as well?
Yes, at one point, the director of the Women's Center, I had forgotten this, I don't know, she left under some circumstances I was unaware of.
Yeah.
And they had to put someone in to the Women's Center.
Right.
So some of the faculty men on campus, because the women were out picketing in front of the trailer that was then the Women's Center, they walked me into the center to be sure I was all right, and they stayed. I was a nervous wreck. I had no choice. You know, Jack said you were going in, period, the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And,
Yeah.
you know, everyone, it ended up fine.
Right.
It was just it was a misunderstanding. It was a disappointment over the previous director being let go,
Right,
and the college feeling they needed to put someone in immediately.
right. Okay,
I was also part of the group with Bev Hounsell that brought a group of students back from a Patriots game, and they got to fighting outside the bus when we got back, and we prevailed upon the faculty and staff to say that the campus would be dry
all right,
because everyone disappeared.
yeah.
The bus driver locked himself in the bus and left Beverly and I out standing in the parking lot trying to settle things down while the police arrived. And she had her daughter, and her daughter was young then,
Yeah.
with her,
Right.
and her daughter had a little friend, so we put the two girls in the car.
Right.
And, but it was life's little
That
challenge.
was, well, those are the stories that made it interesting.
Oh,
Right,
yeah. But it was never dull here,
Right.
you know.
Okay, I think, unless you have anything else to
No,
add.
I have nothing
Okay.
else.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Good
you're
job.
very welcome.